Hello, viewers. I'm revisiting a project that I had started, oh, a year ago, over a year ago. I can't remember. It might have been as far back as 2 years ago. Thinking through, probably about a year and a half ago. So, what this is a 200i Lakewood box fan. And this was a fan that I acquired in 2000. I want to say somewhere around 2008 for like $10. And I remember I saw the ad. It was a Craigslist ad, and it was when I worked. I didn't live where I live now. I lived probably about 2 hours away, and I mean, it's gosh, a long time ago. So before kids, before wives, before houses, and I saw this, and there was no model number on it, and I thought it was a 223 or P223, and it was kind of a contactless deliver or contactless pickup before that was a thing. And I think what I remember about it is I think it was like something like $5 or whatever. I come to think of it, because I just remember having more money, like a bigger bill in my hand than I had change to make. So I ended up paying, like, I left a 10 or something like that. Something like that. Could have been even a 15 and a 20. I don't remember. So then this kind of hung around, and I didn't really use it until my 1997 um, 3723 not decided to, it just had so many hours on it. And that's the fan I still have today. I talk about it all the time. It was before I restored it. It ran its course. It was tired. So that was in 2017. And then I popped this in my bedroom window instead and ran this hard for like 5 years. I did oil it every year, which I have learned you don't need to oil a box fan even if you ride it hard every year. You don't. It's too much. I created a mess. So what ultimately happened with this thing is the sun got to the guards. This thing wasn't like perfect to begin with. The guards were faded when I got it, and they no longer exist. They turned into they like, you seriously went like that, just lightly touch it, and they just would come off, and the slats would just come apart, and it just. So I had to cancel those out. They're gone. And what unfortunately I had to do is turn, essentially, I think I took Galaxy guards or Lasco guards and modified it and put them on here. And it's kind of trashy that way, but I didn't know what else to do. So in the process of doing that, that seemed to be fine. I developed what I remember, I think a checkout video I did on this fan at the condo location, and I think that was in spring of 24. That's what I'm saying. I think it was about a year and a half ago. By the time you see this video, it would probably been about 2 years. So anyway, so that wouldn't mean it would be a year and a half. It'd be closer to 2 years. Let's call it 2 years, okay? And I remember in that video, and I should go back and really look at it, when I would put the fan on high, it would just, I think I got this hum or vibration or whatever the case is. So I want to figure out what that is, or attempt to, now that I'm a bit more versed in splitting these motors apart. Is it a winding issue? Is it a bearing issue? Like, what's going on? The other thing too is I actually, so gratefully, just recently scored, and you might have seen the video, guards off a 223, and I don't know. Oh yes, indeedy, they will work. So this fan was left outside. These guards actually even went through the dishwasher, and this is even still what's left on them. But we may be able to go back to original Lakewood guards. And the interesting thing is, when I was working with these on the 223 that came from the donor fan, I noticed this down here, just like, I have no idea what this was ever for. This has up there too. The original guards on this fan had those, and I used to think it was some type of manufacturing defect that was just unique to my fan. But no, and these guards we're on a 223, and I've worked with my fair share of 223s. I have 3 of them on the floor next to the camera that I serviced this week that I'm hoping to find good homes for. So if you know anyone. And none of those also had this. So I was wondering if these guards came off of a 200i and they got put on that 223 donor fan that I have. So we're going to move these off to the side for now. But if anyone knows anything about guards and whatnot, actually, do I have? No, both guards are gone. For some reason, I was wondering if I still had one side of these. So, all right. So what we're going to do first is we're going to fire this thing up. Yeah, see all that? That's just oil residue, and that's my own doing. We have to clean off. We have to clean off the shaft. I mean, this thing needs some work, but I'm hoping to bring it back. I kind of undid the wrong of this last summer when I got my hands on another 200i with the lighter. So it was a later one before the brace blade, where they went to the lighter shade of gray style cabinet. Which I like that color, I really do, but it's not Lakewood. Yeah, these come on and off so easily. See how freely it spins? All right, just make sure it's off. Yeah, so it's been probably about 2 years since I've turned this on. Okay. So that's medium. I think this is where it's going to get the noise. What I'm wondering with this, if that noise is just from that stupid guard in the rear. I mean, this thing always had tremendous spin down. That's because I probably used a quart of oil on it over the years. I mean, look at that. That is not a dry bearing. All right. So let's do a couple things in our troubleshooting process. I'm glad that I remembered that coming off super easy, and I'm glad it's not. There we go. Still comes off easy enough, but all right, a couple things. This ridiculousness has to go. Yeah, I don't know what's happening here. All right, so I think I should have left the blades on, because I'm going to take this guard off and then we're going to turn it on again. So to save you the pain of watching me unscrew these screws, I will do it and come right back. Guard is off. So we're going to put the blades back on again. I should imagine this cabinet actually feels more stable with that dumb guard on it. Oh, what a mess. What a mess I made. This thing does not need to be oiled. At least I used a proper oil. It was almost like sludge in here. And, you know, again, this is lessons learned by me, because I was so bummed out that my 3723 dried out. And it was before I truly was competent in splitting a motor apart and oiling one of those Marco motors. So what I did, I oiled the heck out of this one so I wouldn't have a problem with it. Well, that wasn't the problem. All right, let's try. Just jump right to high. Problem solved. It's a dummy guard. All right, so that changes this video. I'm still gonna, when we pull off the blades again, I am going to inspect the windings. And if everything looks all sludged out and everything, we should probably pull it all apart. We definitely are going to sand the shaft down and try to get that oil off of it. And we're also going to clean this fan, wax it. This fan has been waxed before. I can still feel some of it on there. But I am happy to have this fan back in action. Whoa, those windings look awesome. At least the front do. We've got a little dust, but I think this is a situation you guys have probably seen me do this before, where we can take a Q-tip and safely just kind of get the loose dust out of there. So even though I ran this fan a lot, this was my bedroom fan, and it just got used and used and used. Not year round. You can see some of that there. Not year round, but definitely in the spring, summer, fall months, it would be on. It would just be on, and on. And yeah, that's all I could really say. But at the same time, I did clean them every off season. So this thing would get, as I've stated already, plenty of oil, but it would also get, just wiped down and cleaned up. So it doesn't surprise me there's not a ton in here. There's really not much in here. Oh, I'm excited about this. I gotta just tell you a little story here while we're working. So I think what happens with me sometimes, I gotta fix my microphone. I think what happens with me sometimes, used to be worse, is when I was younger, this is not going to be a big shocker, I had a McGraw Edison fan that I was working on. This was like early 90s, so I would have been like 12. No, I would have been, between the ages of 12 and 14 when it started kind of like not falling apart, but like at one point I think I repainted it, and then I didn't secure the switch in there, and my grandfather went to use it and the switch fell out, and so like I had to modify it because the switch was all busted, and so it was just starting to get kind of jerked around a bit, if you will. And then when that fan decided to expire, it basically exploded on me. Like, poof, a big flame came out. There was this loud hum. Like, I turned it on, I heard this hum, and it was like horrifying. And then I turned it off, and then I turned it back on again, and it like had the loud hum, and it just poof, like just a flame came right out of the back. Turned it off. I remember the blades were spinning down, but the flame was still getting bigger because the blades were fanning the flame a little bit, and it stopped. My room stunk. I was like, oh, my parents are getting mad at me. They would have not gotten mad at me, although they would have been wondering what I was doing, because it was like March, and I was like messing with my fan in my room, and it like was not warm enough for fans yet. So I remember I had another box fan in my room. That's a shocker. I only had a couple fans. I didn't have like what I have today. And I remember opening the window. It was freezing cold out, and I remember putting that fan in my window on exhaust, just pull that smoky, burnt winding smell out. And so I gotta say, that's the most dust on that one piece right there. I gotta say that gave me a bit of PTSD. So if I perceive to hear a hum or some weird sound coming from a fan, I almost like my logical brain almost just shuts off, and like I'm like, oh, gotta turn it off. And that's probably what happened with this a year ago. I didn't like mess around with the guard. I just assumed that this motor was humming, and it's not. I mean, just inspecting the windings is telling me that this thing is not bad. There's a little more dust in there. This is a good fan. I remember with this thing thinking, so, well, get back to what I say. So I even kind of had a situation, if you watch my videos, I had my different fan, of course, the Grollerson comfort fan or comfort conditioner fan on this very table, actually this week, but Lord knows when those videos will air. And it was, I thought, making some noise last year, and I had it in a video. I was trying to get some commentary from the viewers in the comments to just, and someone at best said, at worst, it's a thrust washer. I don't hear hum, but I was just nervous with it. And I was like, is it going to go up in flames like my one from when I was a kid? And when we had it on the bench, you should check out that video. When we had it on the bench here, so I have an issue with the switch on that one as well. That's just a very known thing with them. If you pop that switch out, there's a good chance you're not getting it back in without snapping the tab. And it like happens 10 out of 10 times. And so that happened with that fan during its one of its many moments. It's been in pieces on the bench, just rebuilding it, servicing it, whatever. And I used, for lack of a better kind of fix, essentially masking tape, because it matches the color of the cabinet. It's just to support it up there. And when I was experimenting on the bench with it in that video, there's enough wiggle play in the knob and switch. That was what was causing the noise. Once I held it, it stopped. So again, I guess I suffered from a little PTSD as a kid, in my bedroom trying to fix. Like, I had no electrical knowledge of what I was doing and why that happened at that time. I just didn't know, like why would a fan suddenly just start humming very loudly if I took care of it all these years? But I didn't really know, aside from cleaning it, like, what would cause that. So now I'm more aware. I'm also aware that it is possible, and I've seen it done. I haven't like witnessed it done, but I've seen the final product, that you can, that you can absolutely, by the time I get this done, I could have split the motor open. You can actually get the windings rewound and bring a fan back to life. Maybe I should have split this, but I'm so far into this now. Just the front, looks so good. So hopefully you're enjoying my commentary. So, all right, so I'm going to finish this and we'll come right back. Well, I changed my mind. We're going to take this off. And the reason why I'm going to do it is I'm seeing at the bottom, I think, of the shell, look like some oil residue. So if anything, this fan has earned the right to be taken apart. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to turn it back on, and I'm going to sand that shaft down because I don't want to pull that through the bearing like that. So where's my, sandpaper? Oh, well, that sounds great. Maybe it's just really good that we're doing that. Taking it apart anyway. Good spin down, even with the blades off. Okay, see, that took that right off. All right. So next, we're gonna operate. Not really operating, but you get the idea. So we could do it a couple ways. I think I'm going to try to split the motor. A lot of times I just take the motor off and then just do it in the cabinet. I do like these metal tabs that you just go over the wires. Like, you know, they just go like that. I think we're just going to pull it out. I think that's how I want to do it this time. I have been taking the whole thing out, as I just said. And let's just do it this way. I think I'm not really worried about that sound that we were getting when we turned it back on without the blades on it. Because that wasn't really a motor hum, it was like a cabinet vibration. See, again, if this was like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I would have freaked out and turned the fan off. I'd be like, whoa, it's humming. I'm also kind of like, you know, yeah, it can like go up and smoke in my face, but you know, aside from something really, really crazy, it's not gonna kill me. Famous last words. That's how you make a decision to do something. Well, what's the worst can happen? Well, it can't kill me. All right. Keep looking over to see if I unplugged it, because I have this habit. I used to not be like this, but I've gotten this habit now where like I leave stuff plugged in, and I always know as an observer to somebody else working on electrical stuff, I used to be like, what the heck? They didn't turn the circuit off, or they didn't plug that while they're doing this or that. And I used to be like, what? How's that even happen? Like, why aren't you aware of that? But it happens to me all the time. I think even I was over working on something with Jordan, and he literally says to me, he's like, yeah, I usually work on electrical motors while they're still plugged in too. Just in a sarcastic way. And I was like, oops, can I unplug that? Yeah, there's dust through this. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, kind of just trying to Q-tip out. Because at first it looked like there wasn't much in there. And then I think when I took the camera off, turned the camera off, and I just swabbed the bottom, there was like some kind of either dust or sludge going through there. All right. Did we get them all? Yeah. Man, this thing is a war horse. It is like the paint's like coming off on the motor housing. Of course, I got a screwdriver that's probably too big. Yeah, look at that. There we go. Yeah, I would say that's dirty. Whoa. Okay. Yeah, like I said, as I was going, I was finding more and more in there. All right. Woohoo! Let's be careful with this. I'm sorry if I'm out of frame for a second. I'll explain what I'm doing. So, man, you don't want to come out. That's clean. All right, let me put that down. Wow, that is filthy. All right, so we made the right call. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I haven't had enough caffeine yet or something like that. Although I'm not a coffee drinker. I'm a bad energy drinker. Okay, I want to show you something. This is all my fault in my earlier, younger days. What the heck camera's doing here? This don't need to be oiled. when we reassemble, I'm probably, other than cleaning out those bearings, I am probably not going to put any more oil in this thing for like a long time. All right, well, this we will clean. This we will also clean, and I'm going to separate the front shell and get another screwdriver. I work with a Phillips screwdriver just because that's what most of these things are here. But I kind of like to do it. Oh yeah, I don't know what the heck I was thinking. Again, I blame it on lack of caffeine. I should have just like gone into this project like knowing I was going to split this. Okay, remind me to put these washers back on. I think the other one is on the, yeah. So that one. Just looking at what's going on here. Man, this is so dirty. Okay, so that washer goes there. All right, where to begin? Well, let's start cleaning. I think I'm going to start with the windings first, because then what we're going to do is pull this cabinet out of here with the Stator and then hit it with varnish. And yeah, I get flack from my varnishing because I use red varnish. I didn't realize you could like order different colors. Clear being the optimal for these types of projects. So when we're done with this, you'll have a red finish. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and we'll come back. Okay, here's where we're at. I cleaned up. I meticulously, as best I could with Q-tips, cleaned out the stator, the windings. There was so much caked in there. At certain points, I could use my fingers to pull it out, where it was between the winding and stator. You're never going to get it perfect. You're never going to get all the dust out, and it's okay to varnish over a little bit of dust. So that looks much better. I did make the call off camera to remove the shell that was still on the cabinet. I want to try to clean them up as best I can. Again, I'm not looking for perfect, but I mean, that's just caked in there. And I would say that 5 years of just like constantly running, that was me. So the other interesting thing is I almost could hand tighten that rear shell off the back of the cabinet. So it was kind of good, and maybe some of that rattling had to do with that, just vibrating around. So the next step is, and this is what I try to do with this process, keep things moving. We had the delay with the me Q-tipping through the shell. I don't know what again, lack of caffeine. By the way, it was like 7-something in the morning when I got down here before work. Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to do it off camera. If it was summertime and I could open up things down here, I would do it on camera. I'm going to varnish the windings. I'm going to just talk about that for a minute. So I use a product called Spray On, and it comes in different colors, if you will. I recommend getting clear or no color because it maintains the look of what you got. I mean, like look at how nice that is. So that's going to be red when we're done. So if you were using clear, it would look the same. It is crazy night and day, the two sides. That's just dirt. When you apply varnish, you want to do it in an extremely well ventilated area. I mean, it will choke you out, and the VOCs is so bad, worse than spray paint. So I got to do it up in the garage. The other thing to say with this is when you apply, first time I did it was on a P25. Thankfully, it wasn't my original one. It was another one that I acquired. You want to actually do the opposite of what you do with spray paint. Spray paint, you fog and mist on. You do that here, you're going to spray everything in the area. You want to get close and just hit it, right? Hit it. And it's okay if you get it on the stator or whatnot. It's fine. And then just let it dry. Now, I've seen, so what I usually do is, who doesn't love pizza? I take an old pizza box from the recycling area and I put it under the cabinet. And then I take either scrap paper, like whatever, paper or cardboard, and put it underneath here, so I'm protecting the cabinet, and I might get some paper towel or something, and just so I don't accidentally hit it with overspray. Not the end of the world, but you know, try to keep it clean. And then I will let that dry, but while that's drying, it gives us an opportunity to clean up this, and it's more Q-tip work. It's more just, you know, elbow grease time. And then when that's done, we can reassemble the motor. I'm also going to have to hand sand this, which is a pain in the neck. I'm going to hand sand, clean that off. First, I'll just try to clean it off with cleaner. And then I need to get some more alcohol, because alcohol works well. But you want to protect the bearing. So that's the game plan. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll come back and we'll keep working. All right, well, the stator is drying, and I got this brush. I was starting with the Q-tip method, and I wasn't getting anywhere. This is not going to be perfect. This is not a cosmetic project here. Like, I'm not doing a resto. I'm more or less doing a, let's get this, I mean, look at that. Let's get this cleaned. Because, I mean, a resto would involve, like, getting this all the way down to the metal and then probably painting it. We're going to run some Q-tip through the bearing in a second. All right, this is much better. It pretty much is all here. This is actually a wire brush. I was looking for a toothbrush, and I used my travel toothbrush as a cleaning toothbrush, and then ironically, when we went to the fan meet, we were in a hotel, and I had to go to the front desk because I forgot to pack a toothbrush or get a new one. I mean, I obviously didn't put it back in with my stuff, so I was just up in the garage looking for it, and I wonder if whatever we used it for, it got trashed so bad that I tossed it. But all right, this is way better. And actually, it worked out using this little wire kind of brush because, I mean, this stuff was so caked. You saw it. All right. Bearings actually look pretty good. You know, so our home that this was running in for 5 years, I should imagine there was a little dust in here, but I'm going to take ownership for it being getting this filthy on my watch. And I have to say, you know, we keep, you know, well, I don't live there now, but still to this day, it's a clean home. Like, it's just not like a messy home. You know, she keeps it clean to this day, and cleaning person, I think I'm not sure if she still has a cleaning person, but my point being is, like, it wasn't a dirty home. Now, certain times of year with the pollen and whatnot, but I always used to wonder, like, I noticed, like, the ring on the screen, because I run my fans on exhaust, mostly, well, not all of them, but depending on which location in the home, and I used to run this one on exhaust, and I would wonder why on the screen, like, it would get so dirty so fast, and it seemed like it would only be running for a few weeks, and oh, look at my hands. It would only be running for a few weeks before I would get that ring. And here, at this location, last summer was my first summer here, and I ran fans all summer, and I barely got that. Yeah, I was just, again, and you know, we probably keep the homes equally as clean, you know, and all that. All right, so let's take this Q-tip. I just want to see what's going on in here. That's oil. Oh man. Seems like, you know how, well, that is all oil. My goodness. You know how they say on the box for a lot of these fans, you know, permanently lubricated? Well, I basically, like, inadvertently permanently lubricated this fan. Oh my goodness. But at least, you know, the bearing is protected by all the, you know, lubrication in here. Usually you're trying to put more oil in here, not take it out. Yeah, so what you're seeing mostly here now is just bare metal. Like this is not really dirt any longer, except for that. All right, I think we got most of that out. So I'm not going to. I should imagine in those oil wicks, they are packed with oil. So this legit may be the first fan that I actually. Yeah, look at all that. My goodness. This might be the first fan that I legit don't oil. Because like if I go to put fresh oil in the oil ports, like I'm just adding to whatever's there. I think what the key will be with this thing is just monitor its performance, and then that will dictate when it's safe to put more oil in. But I legit would put a few drops in every cleaning. You know, like I would take the blades off, hit both sides, wipe the fan down, wax it if I felt that I wanted to wax it, and then put it all back together again. Okay, yeah, it's mostly off now. All right. I think while we're here, I'm going to just slide these over for a second. And I'll do it off camera. I just want to vacuum up this table because I don't want to risk getting some of this loose stuff into the bearings. Okay, next, I'm going to try to carefully remove some of this oil buildup here. Yeah, that's fine. That excess came right off. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Oh boy. All right, let's get the Q-tips out again. Which I put the. I kept a baggie of I grab a handful of Q-tips and keep them in a baggie. I blow through those so fast that I just went into the closet and grabbed. I knew I had a second box of Q-tips, just from the multiple locations we previously dwelled at, and so I just brought the whole box down here. Well, like that, the rate I'm making videos and servicing these things, I'll probably go through a box down here faster than I would in the bathroom. This thrust washer, just be careful. You need endless supply of these. It's almost like a lead pencil where you can just keep adding, keep pressing the thing when you need more lead. I wish you could do that with Q-tip and just keep getting more fresh Q-tip instead of having to grab another one. If I had a drill press, I would stick this in the drill press and polish the whole thing, take all these washers off. But this one looks a little frail. That's why I don't want to take it off. I'm trying to get the loose dust off of it. I think we pretty much got it. Yeah, all right. Some dust here. Whew. Okay. All right. Okay. So next, oh, I'm so on the fence of what to do with. I know I just said I'm not going to add oil, but it just like goes against everything I know. I mean, I can see inside those bearings. I don't know if you can pick that up, and I could see like the coating of oil in there, like, and it looks good. So I think I'm gonna let it go. I just want to avoid the buildup like that with this. It's like sludge. All right. So the next thing we need to do is I actually brought the blades upstairs to the kitchen sink, and I'm gonna go work on those, and then we'll be back. All right. So I ran these under the sink. These fan blades are not in bad shape. So I had them in the sink. The only thing it has going on is like they legit have oil stains on the, oh my gosh, oil stains on inside of the hub, which I really worked hard to try to kind of get off, but you know, there's only so much you could probably do really without going too crazy, and without damaging the plastic too, of course. So I'm just hitting it with a little magic erase. In my case, I use SmilePOWO. Smile, POWO. It's a brand I found on Amazon. A pack of 100, a couple bucks. It's totally worth it. And this stuff is game change for working on fans, and I highly recommend it. So what I like to do is just, you add a little water. Sometimes I add a little too much, which is like all the time, and then I like to wipe it down like this. So while we're doing this, before I came back down, took this out of the sink. Oh yeah, the finish on that is great. It's probably because I still have wax on there. Yeah, you can see all that. There's just nothing. I got a lot of it out, but that is just like oil that got flung up in there. While this was in the sink, I went up and I flipped the Stator over, varnished the good side, if you will, the clean side, and it was kind of almost like blasphemy because it looks so good to begin with, and I'm just hitting it with red varnish. But it's the fan it's a runner. It's not a I guess it kind of is a shelf queen because I have so many fans now. You only can run so many of them. I got to figure out how I'm going to use that fan, incorporate that fan. Because I basically have now resurrected a few fans that used to be like daily runners back in the day. Now they're serviceable again. So it's like, do I put them back in service the way I used to? I don't know if I want to do that. But then again, I would like to enjoy them because I kind of created some nostalgic. Okay, so my process usually is hit it with the foam like we just did. And then I like to just hit it with a little spray cleaner on top. And again, these blades themselves, I have waxed these blades over the years, so I know, they already have wax on them and all that stuff. But we're gonna do it again. It's the first time I used magic erase on it, but you can see what it does. I mean, like, look at the shine on this. These are probably the cleanest blades I've worked with in a while, aside from the hub. Although we just serviced a 80s Eastern Electric, and that clearly was previously serviced by somebody. A little chipping going on there. I have a spare set of these blades from the same donor fan that we're going to take the guards from, but we're going to continue on with this. It's a good opportunity since I got overspray to wipe this down. So again, while we're waiting, and I try to maximize my time when I'm doing these things, we are going to throw some turtle wax. And I guess I could re-edit the video to put all this stuff in order because really, like, we're not going to wax the rest of the cabinet until we get everything back together and cleaned and all that. But again, when you're trying to buy time when things are drying, you can use that time for something else. This will now be, I want to say, the 8th fan this week that I have serviced. Don't know if I said it in one of the other servicing videos, but so I'm a physically active guy and I train early in the morning. Well, I injured my back recently and I'm doing really well now. I should be just about ready to go get back to work, so to speak, in that department. But I've been using the time to really knock off a lot of the projects on the project pile for the fans. And there's a pallet, literally, and the pallet was overflowing with fans because of the last fan meet. And now I can see the bottom of the pallet, which is awesome. There's still some work to be done, but I'm ahead of where I was before I went to the fan meet, which is really good. So for this, I just use turtle wax. You can use any wax, really, but I like turtle wax. I kind of use turtle wax around here as my multi-purpose wax. I use it on my lawnmowers. I use it on my riding tractor, so plastic, metal. The only thing I don't recommend it for is if you have like black plastic molding on your vehicle on the exterior. Don't get it on there. It just like you can't buff it out because of the type of material typically it is. And look at that. Big reasons why I do that. Excuse me. Big reasons I do the waxing is 2 reasons. One, in the sense of the blades here, I try to protect it. I hope it protects it from the sun, the UV rays that may hit it. Now, with the older fans, I try to avoid prolonged, if any, exposure in the window to the sun. Ironically, that's where this fan spent a lot of its time, in the sun, because that house, the back of it was facing the south, and you just got blasted with sun, and that's what destroyed the guards. But the blades remarkably held up. So who knows? Maybe the coating of wax they used to put on over the years actually prevented that, because these blades are good. Like, they're not really warped or anything. Just a little bit of that chipping on the edge there on the one. So I do it for that. That's reason 1. Reason 2 is more so for the cabinet. You deal with, if you're using them in the window in a humid environment over time, just the moisture in the air gets slung along the inside of the cabinet. And I can always tell when a fan spent its life in the window, because you get that thin line down each side of the cabinet, usually around the bottom and the top. And it's a thin line of rust, right? And so I like to do it to protect from that happening, as well as the bottom of these cabinets. A lot of these fans just like the rust. Like McGraw Edison is one that is notorious. I've noticed for some reason recently in the late 80s Lasco Eastern Galaxy box fans that the top, for whatever reason, is showing rust. All right, so this is done and it's out of the way. So what we'll do is I'm going to pop upstairs into the garage and check out that stator and see if we're good to go. Okay, so as I said, it's going to be very red. It is red. This is really what it looks like when you're done. So now we can get that out of the way. This stuff smells bad. Yeah, okay. So now we want to start getting this thing back together again. And what I should probably do is hit this with some, just wipe it down while I have it off. All right. I should have kind of done this before, but it's all right. That looks better, right? But like, look at, I've never really seen one with the paint chipping off it. I mean, this thing, this thing was, I'm not saying like I kicked the heck out of it. I ran it. I basically just ran it. It wasn't like thrown around. Like it wasn't used like, it wasn't used abusively, if that makes any sense. It was just run, right? And this was the wear and tear as a result on it. And I'm surprised at paint is coming off the shell. So this would be the rear shell. Yeah, because it says the top has a label on it at the top. So I'm really surprised that there's a little more dirt in there. I'm really surprised that that the paint's coming off, you know. So that one has that looks to have the washer on it. Okay, so well, we can worry about that in a second. Let's put that there. All right, so this is pretty straightforward, as famous last words. So you got, I get some, just wipe the water came through from the sponge. Shouldn't do that over the stator. Okay, so pretty straightforward, top. You can line up the screw holes, which I can see those. Yep, okay. So then that should drop in. You want to line up everything. I think that should drop in like that. All right. It's not perfectly done yet. I'm just trying to make sure. So one of the things I try to do is you can do this too, is to make sure the holes are lined up, is just use the bolt to help you out a little bit. Okay. Yep, all right. So those holes are lined. See, what's annoying is I'm getting paint chips coming off the shell, and I don't want to leave that inside the motor. Okay. Now I'm going to put the rotor in, and I hope I'm getting all this. Yep. All right. That washer actually goes on the top side. So just drop that in. My hands are cold because I was in the garage. Why aren't you going through? Are you not happy with me? That normally just drops right in. All right, we drop that in. I just want to see something here. My hands are cold. I can't turn anything. There we go. There we go. All right. So now, the back side and the front. This is the front side, I should say. Silly. Okay. We need that washer. Okay, and oil port. So they typically, you know, now you get the holes. You can kind of really see how that lines up. Okay, actually what I should have done is like rust or something. I'm just off camera. I'm just standing next to you, just wiping the front of the shell off. Well, it's just easier to do because I'm not risking getting anything into the motor while I'm wiping it. See, it looks better. All right, so where was I? I think that looks right. Okay. All right, so now we want to bolt this thing up. So what I like to do to make sure we're doing this properly, so you can use these holes, use this hole. Man, there's so much dust on these bolts. This hole should drop right in. As I said, it should drop right in. Yep. All right. My hands are cold. This sounds ridiculous because I'm inside, but they're still cold from the the garage, and then holding that can was freezing in my bare hands. And then I went to the sink to work on the blades, and just like they never warmed up because it takes a minute for the water to get warm, and then I'm down here with the spray cleaner and the foam, which is it's like whatever, it's room temperature, but I'm like, oh man, certainly can't wait for summer. Go this way. I'm trying to think of what motors. What do you guys think? What are the ones that you like to work on the most if you have to split them apart like this? I'm starting to feel, for me, these Lakewood motors. Hey, until it falls over. Maybe because I've been doing so many of them lately, and it's just you get on a kick. You don't need to squeeze the heck out of these motors, but the other thing you need to do, oh, that's pretty good. The other thing you need to do is balance your shaft here. These are self-balancing. Give it some love by giving it some love taps. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Let's live dangerously. Okay. Look at that spin down still. Look at that. Usually when you have them off with no blades on, they don't spin down like that. All right. Let's get it mounted back up. And then we're going to wipe the cabinet down with the foam. And then we are going to just hit it with some spray cleaner just right. And then we will wax it, reassemble, and then our friend is back in service. Can you see this? Kind of. Hold on. Sorry. This is where it's good to have a buddy. These screws are so little too. Yeah, and again, when you have cold fingers, this is hard. So now we get them in place. I'm pretty excited about this, I gotta say, because this was kind of like a dormant fan that was just, you know, on the shelf, like in the project area, and I was just like, what am I gonna do with this thing? Smell that varnish. Whew. Disgusting. Oh yeah. All right. Well, here we go. We're getting somewhere. All right. Let's wipe the cabinet down, and you know this shouldn't be a major ordeal because I've relatively kept this fan clean over the years. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing really to wipe down. I can feel, it's funny, I can feel the wax on this fan. I can actually see remnants of the turtle wax in certain spots. All right. But it's never used a magic erase before, because that's kind of like a recent thing that I've figured out through fellow collectors. Specifically Jordan, and he has it nailed down right because he has a washing station in his setup, which you've probably, if you're watching me and listening to me, you've seen his videos. But he has that washing station set up, and he brings his equipment over that he's working on, and really can go to town, which I admire because I create a lake by the time I'm done. There's some dust up there. Oh yeah, we can push this back in. This is, I think, a good design. Because nothing will like dry rot. Yeah, you obviously have to make sure that your wires are insulated well to do that. But, all right. So I don't generally like messing around with this. That's the one thing I don't, is a switch. I don't really like to mess around with the switch too much because I feel like it's just, those tabs, you know, they get brittle, and they, like I said, on the McGraw Edison fans, like they just, you basically, once you take them out, it's over. Like you're probably not going to get it back in without snapping it. Yeah, so I am not going to oil this fan because I oiled this thing like the last time I had it apart, whenever that was 2 years ago, like trying to work on it, and then I never used it. So there's oil in those reservoirs or those. So we're not gonna just continue to oil it, because then I'll continue to have the same problem of like oil everywhere. And it wouldn't surprise me if, as I do still occasionally, I will occasionally use this probably, that if we get another build-up situation again, because there's just so much in there. But time will tell, as they say. So we were just minutes away from resurrecting a fan that I had used for 5 years. I'm really happy about that. I mean, in reality, unless you have a winding problem where like, and even so, if you do and you catch it before it arcs or shorts, the cord doesn't even need to really be cleaned. Yeah, I should hit it with the melamine foam or the magic erase foam. Other than like that, maybe the paint's even chipping there. Other than that, maybe, or your bearing, something going up with the bearing, like just being scorn, or these things are pretty salvageable. What could do you in is, yeah, I think the winding situation with the Stator is probably like the biggest problem. So I'm just hitting a cord with the foam here. Doesn't really need it, but you can do that. Just go right down. As long as your cord is properly insulated, you're good. And if it's not properly insulated, you shouldn't be using it anyway. So yeah, I mean, other than that, like, unless you're bearing scorn, or if you have a broken blade or guards, I mean, that's more like the blades are functionality, of course, but you could potentially find replacement blades. These things, as long as the cabinets, if the cabinets aren't destroyed, and again, you could rip the guts out of your fan or even pound your cabinet back into submission, which I did to a 223 just recently, and it looks great. Yeah, I mean, these things are pretty darn hardy. And, sometimes you come across some really nasty, but for someone like me who's a collector, it's kind of like a challenge, a fun project to bring them back. And what's interesting is, in the collection of fans I just acquired through the fan meet, they all had varying degrees of like what they needed, right? Some just needed oil, some were just filthy, and then others needed, like I said, when I had I had the cabinet on the ground, then I was beating on it to get it back in the right shape, I guess you could say. But they all look great. In fact, those are the guys I'm talking about. All of these fans. This is my beloved Edison. Not the one that I told you that blew up on me when I was a kid. That one, unfortunately, is probably at the bottom of the landfill, smashed into a million pieces, sadly. But so really, you can, if you're just patient, and even if you don't have the parts to fix it, because like whatever, say your bearing is shot for whatever reason, you just put that fan aside, and either A, unfortunately it becomes a parts fan, or B, you're patient and you come across another shell and you just put that shell on there and off and running. My Edison that I just showed you on the floor, that has different shells on it. That was more out of experimentation, I think, than necessity, because it had an issue with the hub spinning on the shaft, and it would let out this, like, at certain times, it would let out this horrible screeching sound. And a buddy of mine, a guy who's really good with fans, a number of years back, like, when we were trying to diagnose it, we thought maybe the bearings. So he like swapped the shells, but it still continued to do that. So then we figured it out. But yeah, I don't even need to wax this because I've waxed it before. I probably waxed it before I last tried to service it and put those Lasco guards on it, and then never used a fan, so it just sat. But because I put used a magic eraser, which is a mild abrasive, so it could have taken some of the wax back off. Oh yeah, this cabinet has that new fan feel. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Pretty excited. So I even had to make new like holes in the sheet metal for those guards. And I knew what I was doing at the time was like not ideal, but again, this was like nearly 10 years ago. You know, I was just starting to get kind of going in my fan game a little bit. Now I, you know, wouldn't have done that. All right, so let's get the blades on. This is so cool. So cool. Line that up. So I keep saying this in every video because I've been doing so many videos this week that I am going to I'm out of alcohol, but I really would have liked to hit the inside of that hub with some alcohol. See, that goes on. See, that comes on and off way too easy. All right, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to try to help the situation. I'm going to go get, do I have any down here? Yeah. So we're going to take a zip tie. And so that on and off there that you saw, I'm going to wipe this down again, so paint chips. That on and off you saw so easily is because, one, we sanded that shaft down to get all that gunk off. So I remember these blades getting to that point, like where they're just coming on and off so easily. And I think it's because I've had them on and off so many times because I thought I needed to oil them all the time. You know, the irony is, as much as I kept the exterior of this fan clean, I didn't do a good job of keeping the interior clean, and I oiled it way too much. But you learn, right? So what we're going to try to do, let's see if we can get you back in here. What we're going to try to do is put a zip tie around there. Now I need to so now I got to snip that off. I don't think I have anything down here to snip that with. All right, be right back. All right, here we go. I don't have like the right, I'm just trying to use like scissors from the kitchen. Okay, so we're going to try this and see if it makes a difference. So really where I got the idea to do that is, ironically, that Edison on the floor had a similar kind of issue. Although the blades didn't feel like they were coming off easily, they certainly were spinning on the shaft. And this seems to have the same issue, except I did something different in that situation. This, I hope, is better. Just, no. Oh, man. It's going to come off. I don't like this. So the other option is, there is an option with that, which we're not going to do because I think I have a more efficient option, which is, if I can visit the parts pile here, which I'm going to, which involves getting to that bottom shelf. I have another set. I have another set that came from that it came from the same place those guards came from. So let's try this one. If this one sits on there better, then we'll use it. If not, I don't know what to. Ironically, sanding that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Sanding that shaft down actually. Yeah, that is more like it. Sanding that sanding that shaft down, ironically, harmed this thing, but I really thought that this would work. So now, if I were to do this again, I would do what I did on the Edison fan. What you can do is drill a hole in the side here and run that through, right? So then when you get it on, you take a pair of needle nose and pull tight so it pulls it even snugger. That is what the irony is. I didn't actually need to go that far with the Edison fan because it went on tight and it didn't spin on the shaft. However, in this case, I didn't do it and I needed to do it. But I don't have unfortunately, my needle nose walked off. I had two pairs and they walked off. So this will go. This is still a very good set of blades. It just needs a little love around there. And that is on there. All right, so let's just get this out of the way for the time being. And we're ready to put the guards on. But before we do that, I'm curious how it performs. Just very high level. No hum, nothing. And like still amazing spin down. Amazing spin down. You know, so I'll show you in case you for some reason stumbled across this video and didn't see any others. If you are going to oil, you use Zoom Spout. I like Zoom Spout because of the long straw, and it's non-detergent oil, and you would put a few drops in the oil slot, oil port on this side and on the other side. 3 drops, I tend to put more, but 3 drops is enough. And then when we had the fan apart like we did, you can certainly drop some into the oil port. I'm sorry, not the oil port, directly into the bearing. And usually what I do is when I put a few drops on the shaft, slide everything in, spin it a few times, and then we're really lubricated. Because of the situation that I explained before, we didn't need to do that here. Zoom Spout is not the only product out there. There's other all-in-ones, 3-in-1s. Make sure if you select something other than Zoom Spout, it's a non-detergent type oil, because otherwise you'll ruin it. Like if you were to just take WD-40 and blast it, you'll mess it up. So you can use those others. Just make sure they're good for fans on the label, and that they say non-detergent. But again, I've always chose Zoom Spout because of the straw, and it hasn't let me down. Okay, let's put the guards back on, and you don't need to see me do that because that's pretty easy. Okay, we have it back together, and this is really exciting to me. This fan hasn't looked this good in years. I used it with busted guards and slats missing, like big chunks missing, and but I would, whatever side was facing out the window, that was the side I was trying to use, and I contemplated just running it with no guard on the back, on the front, because I just had it, but occasionally we would use it that way. So I'm very pleased with how this came out, and again, patience. I took the long game. I got some parts from a donor fan and was able to bring it back. Now I probably could take the foam and go back over this, but this is kind of brittle. So for now, I'm just going to leave it like this. But this did go through the dishwasher. So I'm pretty confident that, you know, we might be, this is as good as it gets. I could certainly pop it off and hit it with some spray paint too, and maybe that's what we'll do. But, you know, the very common on these fans is the guard touches the stupid hub, and I double check to make sure that hub is on there, and so we might get a little rub, but this is what, when I used to use this fan with the original guards, it would do the same thing. And I've seen so many of these with like the guards cut out here for that reason. So let's crank it up. Let's start with low. Medium. Yeah, I remember thinking this fan was powerful. When I got my hands on it, I'm like, it's a weenie little fan. This is not a Lakewood, even though it looks kind of like a skinny Lakewood, a Lakewood that went on a diet. But it ultimately, I used to think it was a very powerful fan. All right, let's see if that hub rubs. A little dust made its way through. .93 watts, 2.2 amps, 0.7 on the power factor. Super pleased. I mean, check the spin down on it. That is one thing that has not changed. It just goes and goes. Yeah, so let me know what you think. Just to recap really quickly, initially I wasn't going to pull these shells apart because it looked good from the one side, but the other side was a disaster, and it was even more of a disaster as I opened it up, and I ate my own words. We cleaned it, we varnished it, wire brushed the inside of the shells, cleaned the bearings out, did not oil, did not add any zoom spout to this because it didn't need it in this case. We then, after varnish dried and everything, reassembled, got everything back in the cabinet. We used the magic erase on the, or SmilePOWO, SmilePOWO, on the cabinet, the blades, and then realized quickly that the blades that I was putting back on there were too loose, and tried a quick zip tie approach. That didn't work, and I thought, well, I could drill a hole through the side of this hub and pull the zip tie through. But I had a clean, waxed, and ready set of replacement blades ready to go. So let's just do that and keep the others as spares. These guards, remember we had a Lasco guard kind of bastardized on the back of this fan. We removed that. We put, I had these donor guards that had already run through the dishwasher. Still a little green on them. I'm going to probably work with the magic eraser off camera and see if we can kind of rehab that a little bit. And then we reassembled and fired this baby up, and he is ready to roll. So am I going to stick this in my window this summer and say, let's go for another 5 years? I could, but I'm not going to. I feel like this has earned its way into part-time duty. I have, and it's certainly earned a spot for my collection. I have a 200i, but I have a newer one with the lighter color cabinet. So I really wanted to keep this one. And this is nostalgic for me because it was one of the first fans I acquired when I moved to Massachusetts in 2008. I told the story there. And now I'm just going to enjoy it. So let's leave you with this as my outro. And thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. And I appreciate you guys sticking with me.